Ladies and gents, and welcome to the Tartan Stand. I'm here with Harry, who will be representing Aberdeen and Dundee United. We are back. The part-timers couldn't make it last week. Kidding. But it's great to have you on. We'll actually start with you, Jay, because Dundee United, it feels like it was a wee bit of revival. They signed Dylan Tate, got Jack Walton back. Dundee United is finally signed goalkeepers that can actually save some shots. And then you lose to Montrose. Does it feel like it's one step forward, two steps back going into the new season?
Well, it's a bit 50-50 really. Obviously, losing to Montrose isn't really the best. But then we've got to win to Arbroath, so we could be back on the uphill, but we might go back down. Who knows?
Do you feel any doubt with Jim Goodwin? Like, was he a manager that you wanted in? Obviously, when he did get relegated to the Championship, he did come back up straight away, but it still felt a wee bit of the style of play was a bit poor. But then he did have a cracking first season back in the league. He's then finished seventh. Does it feel like he's not really going to utilise that potential for Dundee United?
In my opinion, I don't think he'll last long at all. I'll give him till like December.
I'm surprised he's lasted as long as he has, to be honest.
I think we'll have. You actually had the horror at Aberdeen at all.
I've got my feelings on Jim Goodwin.
Well, we're all going to Aberdeen right now. Aberdeen right now, actually, because obviously Stephen Robinson. There was a wee bit of I'm not going to say uproar. I don't know if it was just because of how long it took to replace Jimmy Tilleen just with another SPFL manager. Do you felt that was right from the Aberdeen fans, like to entitled to their feelings, or was it like just got to back the guy?
So, I remember the day he was appointed. I was quite annoyed, but it's not as much because it was him. Like, he can come across as an unambitious choice, but I think that might be what Aberdeen need right now, rather than a risky appointment. But it was just the fact that we could have, if we'd wanted to, we could have appointed him like a week or two after Taylor left. We'd probably have stayed in the cup. We wouldn't have been in a relegation scrap because he would have probably had time to sort things out, get us on a better course going into the second half of the season. But I think it took, I'm not sure how long it took. It was like over a month of just names getting thrown out there. We had Horneland, who there was something went on. Nobody really knows what, like family situation or something, couldn't come. Then we brought that guy, I can't even remember his name, I think he was German, like it was at one of the Red Bull clubs, like Schultz or something. We brought him to Pittodrie. He watched us get hammered off Celtic and decided no. And then we just kind of panicked after we went out of the cup because Pierre Leven clearly didn't want that job from the beginning. And we just got the closest, most available manager. But I do think he's turned quite a few people's opinions around. Obviously, you're not going to make everyone happy, and Aberdeen are notoriously quite moaning-faced gets. So everyone's going to have their opinion, but you've just got to back him now. Like, he's here. Like, you can't not. So hopefully he can get us back onto a steadier track, not just third one year, 11th the next, yo-yoing up and down constantly.
I actually want to talk about something here. It's not obviously the same situation with Celtic at the boardroom level, right? But there's a mixed feelings in Dave Cormack. Listen, he is an Aberdeen lad. He has put a lot of money in, but it just feels like it's wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision. Do you feel he's on a bit of a slippery slope at the moment?
There is definitely a lot of mixed opinions in Cormack. I've gone through every array of emotions when it comes to Dave Cormack. I personally quite like him. I don't think you'll find a guy who cares more about Aberdeen than him that could, afford to take over the club. I do think he maybe inserted himself into places he shouldn't have been sometimes, but hopefully, he has taken a bit of a step back. Him getting off social media was a good idea as well, because that wasn't helping anybody. Obviously, there was the crying after he sacked Jim Goodwin, and I think that actually did get quite a few people back on side with him because it showed how much he cared. Maybe it was a bit embarrassing looking back at it, but he's another one. He's put a hell of a lot more money into the club than like Milne or that ever did. He's spent quite a lot of money. I think he said he wiped our debt, and I wouldn't one, like if he sold up, we'd end up getting taken over by some American investor. I suppose Cormac's not far off, but some American investor who'd never set foot in the city and had no intention of ever showing up. And I don't know if I'd really want that. I think he's made mistakes, but he's probably the best we can get. Which is.
And then I wanted to actually go into your sporting director. I'm not even going to pronounce his name. I'm just going to call him Lewis or Louise, whatever his name is. There was a big reputation when he came in. I gave him a big reputation on TikTok. You know, he was the guy that filmed Roberto Firmino. You're thinking that's a big name. Obviously, the transfer budget is going to be a lot different at Aberdeen. It feels like it's been, well, when he first came in, it's a bit underwhelming. The players he brought in, like Olasanya, etc. Obviously, that has been, he's been brought back, and we did see his sitter, but we won't go through with that. Do you think he's bringing back the players on a steady ship, like the Brad Lyons, the Lewis Mayles? Do you think that's bringing the Aberdeen fans back on his side?
So there's every time someone signs for the club, someone either goes, "That's a loot signing," or "That's not a loot signing." And somebody always says, that one's not his signing, because basically, if we sign somebody who's not foreign, people just assume it can't be him that's done it. I don't know why, but we've had a very, very busy transfer window. We just signed a new keeper from Germany, which I imagine's from his contact book. Aramu and Breedle, who will be two of our midfielders next season. I mean, Breedle's only played like maybe 70 minutes total, but he looked pretty bright from corners. He has got a big reputation, and it could have been a bit of a circus surrounding him. Like, obviously there was the penguin thing. And that's, I mean, I just kind of, I think maybe it could get into a situation of too many cooks, because Burrows is still there. There just seems to be a lot of people who do the same job.
Yeah,
we've had Guns on at least, but it does seem to be a ton of people who all do the same thing but mildly different, and you wonder how that works, like behind the scenes.
I actually want to go into the conversation between the both of you. We will start with you first of all, Jay. You know, Hearts had a tremendous season last season. You know, we don't know if they're going to continue that. If they do, is that going to be a worry for you, thinking, you know, top two was always so far out of reach with financial side, but if top three is so far out of the reach, and obviously Scotland coefficients went down, do you think, you know, what is optimism for Dundee United fans if they can't even meet the European expectations anymore?
I would say, like, try and get top six would be my expectation. If we can't get in the top six, and just try and go for Europe.
Like, does it not scare you? But that, you know, usually, you know, when the league starts, it's always go for third. But now, even if that's so out of reach, it's like, is it just going to be a bigger landscape? That what can Dundee United fans expect? Like, there's nothing really to go for. Obviously, apart from the cups, you know, you get a good cup run, win the Scottish Cup, that changes everything. But it feels like, you know, what is it with Dundee United? Like, what is the actual aim as a club?
I would say the aim would be top six. From last season, definitely top six.
If you just like say top six, right? Obviously, we have lost the European spot, so realistically, top six isn't as one as it was. Like, if you say you get top six, right, but you have just maybe an extra few points, let's say 5 at most, would you still feel that's a good season for Dundee United, albeit you've just improved slightly?
I would say just improved slightly.
Is that a good season for Dundee United? But
really depends how we start off the season.
Yeah, well, we will go through your first 5 games, because it does look like a wee bit of a stinker for Dundee United and Jim Goodwin. But it's the same for you, Harry. Like, we kind of spoke about it off camera. Like, we always moan about Celtic and Rangers dominating Scottish football, and rightly so. We do want to see a change. But then for other clubs, I think they don't really realise that if there is a change and it has become a freeway title race, like, how the hell does any other club reach that? Especially like of Aberdeen, who, you know, usually say they are the third biggest team in Scotland.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cynic in me could say that third place was always out of reach for Dundee United before Hearts became good. But I think, because I went through that with Hearts winning the league, because I looked at it and thought, for a long time, I didn't want them to do it, because I thought, well, if they win the league and end up with Champions League money or even close to it, that's it done forever. Like it's fourth place is now the aim. They'll pull away financially. They kind of already are. But I think it got to the point where I was like, it would have been better for the league, because I think the only way we're going to improve as a league is selling ourselves better. And that's going to come with having to, advertise ourselves to the world and not just Scotland. Our TV deals, probably, for the amount of people that go to games weekly, probably the worst in the world.
Yeah, it's stinking.
And I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think, because there is still, like, Hearts will be probably better than most teams most seasons now. That's a likely scenario, but I don't think they're going to pull away the same way Rangers and Celtic would. Like, it's been one season. We need to. I think I'll judge it after like 3 to see where they're really at. But it'll be interesting to see how they cope with the minimum. I think it's minimum 12 games extra in Europe if they get to groups, and because they went out of both cups in the first round, or the first round they were in last season. They just had the league to focus on, and they had Celtic and Rangers, who had hired 2 of their worst managers ever in the same season, which isn't going to happen again.
Yeah, that is true. I want to actually talk about it. Obviously, again, we kind of spoke about it off stream that Stephen Robinson's going to be having a transition period as well. Switching from his formation from St Mirren from 5 at the back to a 4 at the back. It did first 30 minutes against Queen's Park. You thought, okay, this is an actual good attacking Aberdeen side. Again, it does step the foot off the gas. You can't really say much because a lot of people say, Premier Sports Cup is kind of like a pre-season at this stage. Does it slightly worry you a wee bit that they are professionals at the end of the day, but again, they are human. They can do that, but it's not something you really want to see as an Aberdeen fan.
That last, specifically the second half in that game, did worry me a bit, because it never really felt like we were safe. Once Queen's Park scored as well, I went, I can see this is happening. It's happening again. We managed to get it over the line. It's a squad that's basically entirely new. Like, none of them have really played extended periods of time together. They're all just coming back off their holidays, basically. I don't think you can read too much into it. Like, you can't. It's like Dundee United losing Montrose. Like, you can't read a terrible amount into that, because we apparently got beat 6-3 off Ross County in a behind closed doors game like the week before, and they just, especially like friendlies and what the Premier Sports Cup group stage is, which is effectively a friendly tournament. Yeah, I'm not worried. Robinson's got a good history of like coming into clubs and making them better quite quickly. Like when he came into Motherwell, they got 2 cup finals off the back of it. I'm not sure at what place St Mirren finished in his first season, but
I think he finished top 6 every single time he was with St Mirren.
I think his initial start when he took them over wasn't great, but I think he got top 6 maybe his first full season it was.
I think he's 3 years in a trot. He got top 6.
Yeah.
It feels like when he does come into a club, he does do well, but then the 4th season, you've seen at Motherwell and you've seen at St Mirren, it kind of does go on a downward spiral. Obviously, you do not want to see that Aberdeen. But I want to...
You can get 3 good years out of him.
That is true. At least Muller is a quality signing, the goalkeeper. Are you a bit sad that, the way Mitov, the things happened with Mitov, because, his first season with Jimmy Tulane, he was goalkeeper of the season. You can arguably say that. And then the year after that, don't get me wrong, he had plenty of injuries. We don't know if he came back too soon, maybe some injections, but it felt like every mistake he was doing was just constant, especially from, like set pieces. Like, he cannot command his line at all after that.
Aberdeen seems to do this thing. I don't know if we made some kind of pact with Satan about Joe Lewis staying good for so long, but like when Joe Lewis got to the end of his career, there was a season where I saw his name in the lineup and went, oh. And the same happened with Roos. People will deny it, but like the first 6 months of Roos, everyone loved him, and then it just all went downhill. And I can it just feels like a natural progression for Aberdeen as we get a great 6 months or a great season out of goalkeeper, and then they just start making mistakes out of seemingly nowhere. But Muller, obviously only seen him for one game, and he's played at a reasonably high level, so you got hope for him. But everyone was going on about that triple save. He doesn't need to make that triple save if he doesn't parry it straight to the Queen's Park striker. The save at the end of the game was fantastic, but if that first save where he pushes it straight into danger, if that becomes a regular thing, I think people will let him know that he's not fit to wear the shirt, as everyone keeps shouting from the Merkland.
Jay, I want to speak to you about the Dundee United signs. You know, Jack Walton, fan favourite, came back. Dylan Tate, an exceptional sign for Falkirk. I still can't believe, that Dundee United pulled that off. Jesse Randall was a big name in the A-League. Obviously, it remains to be seen if he can convert that. Hopefully, as they can all sack Sapsford. He's obviously lost Fata, who was an exceptional sign last season loan. But it feels like that striker position still isn't nullified. Max Waters was absolutely horrendous last season. Do you still feel that's a problem for the past 2 years? They haven't really got that position solidified yet?
I think it is still a problem with, because we had Sam Dalby, that it's a big miss not having him. So yeah, I think we do need to fill it in, but one that can score loads of goals.
See, we've done United, but obviously there is a lot of rumours about the centre backs. Ross Graham, apparently the bid got rejected. I know a lot of Dundee United fans aren't happy about that. I think if it is just to get extra money, then so be it, because inflation these days, I think a lot of people say, Dundee sold Luke Graham for $2 million, which was absolutely phenomenal by business. But looking back on it, Scottish clubs have been selling short for over 20 years, and even if it is the quote-unquote terrible players, it still needs to be improved upon. Do you trust, the Dundee United board? Obviously, there's been a lot of sticks saying the Dundee United board just wants to keep the money in their back pocket. Obviously, the financial issues with Dundee United over recent years has been a bit of a problem too. Do you feel, if you lose those players, especially Louv at the back, that you can reinvest that into someone better?
I think we could, like Will Ferry, for instance. I think we could have sold him and maybe got Lucas Stevenson. Players like that, a fantastic player.
Yeah, he is going to be a big, massive loss. Obviously, did have him from 2 years, which was incredible too. But for the signings, what areas do you feel that Dundee United really need to improve on? Obviously, we did speak about the striker position, but you obviously lost Sibbard to Falkirk, who was an exceptional player, albeit kind of had these injury problems too. Do you feel like there needs to be more improvements in that midfield area, albeit Dylan Tate has come in?
I think there needs to be a wee bit more, but I think we do have the players that could have a solid midfield.
So what you've seen with Dundee United, obviously, they're still in Albion. Like we said before, it has been a wee bit pre-season friendly, if you want to call that. Do you not think it has been a bit of a worry about, albeit I feel like Stirling Albion might potentially challenge for the League 2 title, albeit it is against a Premiership club? Kind of took you to the wire. You got a late minute penalty. Obviously, Montrose, I feel like they could do a title challenge in League 1. Again, you still are a Premiership club. That's 2 games that you have seen. And does it feel like there's been any progress with the new signings and that team with Jim Goodwin?
I think that Michael Forbes, he's been really good defensively. I think that's the only one that's really took the eye so far.
And before coming up to the Rangers game, there's a lot of rumours. I don't really know if it's true about Saxford obviously missing home because of his girlfriend. That was a whole rumour last season. Do you still think he'll be a Dundee United player by the end of the August transfer window?
I think so, yeah. I do think he will.
If you sell him, do you think that could potentially not put Dundee United's season in danger, but do you feel like you would be going into this season worse off than you were last season?
Yeah, I think we would be, because he is a really good player.
And you obviously spoke about Will Ferry. I think, in my opinion, I was probably a wee bit critical at the start of the season. It felt like every time he tried to cross the ball, he couldn't hit the first man. Obviously, he did improve a lot. Did get that weird goal against Dundee in the Dundee derby. There was like a 1.7 million offer in for him. Do you feel that's going to be a big loss for Dundee United?
I think it will, yeah, because you noticed the difference against Montrose and what happened on Saturday. So it was quite a big difference.
And then we also got to you, Harry, as well with the signings. Connor Ronan came in. Was phenomenal prior.
Yeah.
Also did have a wee bit of injury issues, but we never know. He might be back. But then saying that, Aberdeen's probably had the worst injury record ever. You got then Dan Harpy, who's a brilliant sign, albeit
He's a
again,
big lad.
but again, he might have his injury problems. It feels like
Yeah.
the same problems Aberdeen have with Dundee United. It is just like that striker position is a wee bit up for grabs. Don't get me wrong, I love Kevin Nisbet. Again, last season he was a wee bit iffy. But it just feels like the players that Aberdeen are bringing in for that striker position, it still isn't that great, especially if you want to go for a European place.
Well, we've got that the new Moroccan boy, Malula.
No.
I mean, he was unlucky not to score against Queen's Park. I hope he can do something. It's too early to tell, and not an avid watcher of the Moroccan league, so I couldn't really tell you much about it. But
Well, to be fair, he had good starts for the team he was actually playing at.
I mean, he went to AFCON with the national team, so he's got an AFCON medal.
Well, that's a wee bit. We put quotation
He got
marks.
it through the post a month later, but he still got it. But I think since Mialski left, we have struggled to fill the void for a striker. I'm hoping I've liked the look of Smith so far, and if Yogan or Yogani, I'm not entirely sure how to say his name yet, but if them two can contribute from the wings, hopefully, even if the Moroccan boy doesn't get scoring and Nisbet has another slow start to the season, hopefully it won't be the killer it was last year, because we just didn't really have goals in the team last year at all. We seem to be a better threat for corners, which hasn't been the case for years now. So hopefully that can make up for it a bit.
Like, I know the Conference League was a wee bit dire, but the teams you were up against was absolutely immense. You could potentially say they were Europa League teams. Do you feel like Jimmy Tleen, obviously, he went on that impressive 13 unbeaten run, kind of got sniffed out, won the Scottish Cup, but it felt like his style, albeit it did draw in North, I think they actually went a good distance in the Conference League. Do you feel like his style is suited to European football, whereas if Stephen Robson does get there, I think his only chance was with St Mirren. They did get beat off a mould, I think. Do you feel like
they played well?
Do you feel like there's a wee bit of a difference, like, because Aberdeen's like Celtic and Rangers? I feel like I could be completely wrong in this. Where if they're at home, they're expected to beat anyone because that's what Aberdeen's been growing up on, especially in the 80s, etc. Do you think Stephen Robinson can transition that into European football?
I think, well, first, the most important thing is we'd have to get into European places, which I think will be a task this season in itself. The most important thing Robinson can do is make Pittodrie hard to come to. You want to make teams like dread coming to Pittodrie, because the fans already do. But you need to you need to make Pittodrie hard to win at, because there's been seasons where our away form was horrific. I think under Robson, our away form was horrific. Same with Goodwin, actually. Period of time where we didn't win an away game for I want to say 5 months. But we just picked up points at home. It was just win, draw, win, draw, win, draw, constantly Pittodrie, unless we played Celtic. But Pittodrie needs to be hard to come to, and I think you're not going to get that by being nice. And Thielen was very nice. It's a very nice guy. No one's got a bad word to say about him. Maybe a little too nice might be the problem.
Who knows? Maybe Robson might take a wee playbook at the Argentina, just batter everyone. But talking about managers, I was very critical with Jim Goodwin, Jay, but it felt like Dundee United's best games were against the top three. They did obviously draw at Ibrox in 2 each game. I think Tavernier scored in the 85th minute, where I think Dundee United should have won that game. You had goalkeeper errors at the other game at Ibrox where he's lost 4-2 or 4-3, and I don't know what the keeper was doing in those games. He then beat Celtic, back to back. I think it was at Tannadice, under two different managers, Wilfred Nancy and Martin O'Neill. Does that give you some bit of hope with Jim Goodwin that he can get those results against the top teams? Maybe just needs to change it up a wee bit against the likes of the rivals, maybe Falkirk, Kilmarnock, in these types of situations where he's going for the same spot. Do you think he can implement that to his game?
Yeah, I think he could. He's already started playing like a back four in these games, so I think keeping to the back four would be good. Aye, but I think he will get there. but it's just taking its time with the signings and that. And then obviously with Jesse Randall being at the World Cup and that as well.
Yeah, he does look like a big, massive player. He's been obviously high standards in the A-League. Obviously, we've seen a lot of players come over for the A-League, just like Aberdeen was it Milanovic, who was stinking the gaff out. Have to throw his name out in there.
I want to implement a no A-League signing policy at Aberdeen, because I know we didn't get him directly from the A-League, but Yengi also played there.
He was horrific for Aberdeen.
It was. He's still there.
Actually,
no, we can't get rid of him.
I thought Yengi from Livingston that he's actually brought was a wee bit half decent. I remember, like I know, like playing for Livingston, you're not going to be that good unless you're Lewis Smith. I thought that was a terrific signing. Like he was literally. I went to the Livingston Kilmarnock game and drew 1 each. He did. I think he never scored, but hit the bar, and it felt like he was given a threat. But obviously, I think he went to Japan with his brother. I don't know about that one, but
so Yengi, Teti Yengi's moved permanently to Japan, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas our Yengi went, played 2 games, pulled his hamstring, and hasn't played since.
Did he not cost you a fair bit of money? Like,
no, we got him on a free, but apparently his wage is eye-watering. So, I mean, I'd love to eat my words. I'd love to come back to this in like a year's time when Yengi's moving to Barcelona for 35 million after scoring the winning goal in the Scottish Cup final. But I don't think I will be.
Yeah. I think if that happens, then we may as well just consider a place on earth like rent, because that's just baffling.
We did. We gave a fair chunk of abuse to Shaden Morris over the years, and he came. So
I felt like always I want to see him when he was playing against Celtic, etc. It felt like when he came off the bench, especially with his pace, I think he actually changed the Scottish Cup final game.
He did.
Obviously, Schmeichel did put it in his own net. That does help a wee bit, but it felt like
expertly curled.
Aberdeen bias there, I would say that. But I felt like Morris was that type of different player. I think I'm not going to say he's the same type of player, but like Ugan and Lewis Smith, they feel very attacking threat that Aberdeen hasn't had in the wings in a good bit of time, probably since like Niall McGinnon, etc. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there was points where Lewis Smith took a man on against Queen's Park, and I was rubbing my eyes with astonishment, because I don't think I saw anyone take a man on last season at any point. Morris was a weird one, because I don't actually think he ever started the game and played well. Maybe I think there was once at St Mirren he was all right, but in general, if he started, because everyone would clamour for him to start, and then he'd start and be dreadful, and he'd go back to the bench, come off the bench a few times, look really bright, get started, and it was just a cycle. But he was such an effective super sub. He was so fast. I've never seen a player that fast.
It feels like a Sebastian Tinecki at Celtic. He's absolutely horrible when he starts, and then when he comes on, he turns into like Neymar, especially in that Scottish Cup game against Ibrox. Game, it was absolutely mental. But to wrap this up, I'll do what we have been doing with the previous teams, and that is going for the first 5 leagues. We will start with the hardest one, and that is Aberdeen, actually, because it's been a wee bit of a crew of hard teams in there. I will tell you that obviously the venue, Hearts at home, good history. You know, home team usually gets something for that. Dundee away, Motherwell away, Rangers at home, and then Celtic at home. Out of 15 points, how many points do you see Aberdeen picking up?
7.
So
if we beat Motherwell and Dundee and draw against Hearts, I think that's about what we could expect. Like, obviously, I could be completely delusional and say 15, but I don't.
That's what football's all about, mate.
I think Rangers do look good this year. They look like a proper team, and we're playing Celtic, so that's 0 points. It just seems to be how it is.
It's a hard opening spell, right? See if you want to get like 4 points and it saves against like Dundee Hearts or Dundee Motherwell. Do you think fans would be like, this is Dave Cormack's fault, we should have never appointed him? Do you feel like he's never going to win at least first 5 games? Unless he does go like double figures, which would be obviously impressive.
I think Hearts at home, I think he'll get a lot less leeway than he maybe should, because we're a lot of fans are looking at Hearts as an unknown quantity again, because they've got basically an entire new squad, a new manager. They've not beat us at Pittodrie since the Stone Age. It's like, it is something that we should be expecting at least a point based on history. I feel like when the fact that this record keeps getting brought up so much now means it's going to be broken. Motherwell, it'll be interesting because they're another one that just is away to Swansea. I think 5 million got announced today, and Justin Watt going, and someone else. They lost Welsh. They've lost Welsh as well. Obviously, that will take a lot of like good signings to replace them. Mashwinise will probably be gone. I don't know if he is. That whole thing kind of went quiet.
He's always been linked with Anderlecht, and then it feels like he's going to join, and then it just disappears again. So we just don't know, to be fair. But I'll be surprised if he's at Mull at the end of the transfer window.
Dundee and Motherwell are the games that I'd say, if we don't pick up points from that and we come out of this like we did at the start of last season with 1 point, no goals from our first 5, then we could be in for a very, very long year. And Stephen Robinson could be in for a very long time in the dugout, just listening to all boys in the manor moaning at him.
I will talk to you, Jane, for the first 5 games. Obviously, it feels like you've kind of got a tricky start. You know, you've got Rangers at home on the Friday night, Hearts away, Dundee at home, Dundee Derby, Kelly away, then Mull away, but it feels like, Dundee United just never get anything at Fir Park. Out of 15 points, how do you feel how many points you're going to pick up?
About 6. Not confident at all.
So I'm guessing you feel you're going to win against the likes of Dundee and Kilmarnock out of those 5.
Yeah, I would say Dundee and Kilmarnock, possibly Kilmarnock, because we always struggle there.
Obviously, this is the first time they're going to be having a grass pitch, so you never know how their season turns out.
Yeah.
See if you do pick 6 points up. Again, it is a hard first 5 games. We don't really know how Mull is going to play again, but if we are looking at last season, you still think that's going to be a tough game. If he does want to pick up 6 points, which is the most realistic, you would probably say, do you think the fans will be on John Goodwin's back?
Not right away. I wouldn't say right on his back. I would give it like a couple of months and then they'll be right on his back, or Scottish Cup, I would say.
Well, thank you so much, lads, for tuning in. Obviously, coming on, it is very much appreciated. To viewers at home, hit that like button, subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of the Tartan Stand. And as you can see here with the kits on, we are speaking with Dale, aka the Falkirk Stands. He'll be the Falkirk representative. You've got Jamie Talk Celtic, or even off Underside podcast. He'll be going around later on. And you've also got Ross, who will represent Kilmarnock here. 3 interesting teams, 3 interesting seasons coming up. But we'll start with the Falkirk fan, because I feel like that's a wee bit of an interesting note of, Falkirk last season was absolutely excellent, back-to-back, treble back-to-back with John McGlynn with Falkirk, getting them back up to the top flight in so long, which, they've been sorely missed. Going into this season, there has been a wee bit of sales. Dylan Tate went to Dundee United, which was very surprising in my point of view. Do you feel you're weaker going into the start of the season than you were last season?
In terms of squad size, we're probably at the same size as we were going in at this point last year. After the kick-off, we got about 6 other players coming in. So, but at this point last year, I feel we're probably stronger than what we are now. Obviously, Calvin Miller's away. He is pretty much everything went through him. And with him gone, we've brought in a couple of young guys who have yet to kind of light it up in the pre-season games that we've had, and also the Premier Sports Cup. So I would feel at the moment we are a wee bit kind of short of numbers. I was hearing yesterday, that was off the Falkirk podcast that they do. I was hearing that we've got another 5 about to come pretty soon, 2 of them imminent. So I'm not too disheartened for where I was maybe about 4 or 5 days ago when we got beat by Ayr United in the Cup. So
obviously, you have brought in Craig Sibbald and Scott Tansel, which is massive signings, experienced players as well. And I'm going to say something. I think Falkirk's left-hand side, last season was probably top 3, especially with the budget they had. with the likes of Barnett Stewart leaving, do you think that's a massive miss? Because he obviously only came back from his on loan in Dunfermline in January, had that 6-month period, got good money from as well. Do you think it was a good bit of business for Falkirk to let him go?
Oh, 100%. That's the kind of model we're going to be going down now. But for Barney, we pretty much got him for £1. I mean, that's how it is. We got him for £1. He's came in, he's done what he needed to do, but he wasn't actually available regardless at the start of last season, so we hadn't even planned for him to be in the squad, let alone being in the first team. It wasn't ready until I think it was mid-September after his injury. He got an injury in pre-season, so he went to Dunfermline, which was a bit of a bone of contention for a few of us fans. But he went there. He's done really well, and fair play to Neil Lennon for kind of coaxing him in, because he's a bit of a silly laddie in terms of big daft laddie basically. So he went there. He done really well at Dunfermline. He's came back, and then he's just kind of hit a really purple patch of form, and that's what's got him. He's moved to West Brom. But yeah, for us to get what we got for him, and the add-ons that we're going to be getting, there's talking of an extra kind of couple of 100,000 when and if he makes his first Scotland squad. So I would imagine that's probably going to be pretty soon. We've been at West Brom now, and there's a lot of other add-ons that will be kind of bumping that price up a bit. And he's clearly the highest of our transfer fee that we've ever had. So yeah, I'm happy enough for him. I'm happy enough for the club to get the money that we did, and I'm sure that McGlynn will bring in somebody to replace him in the near future.
Well, at least the Scotland squad call up. Steve Clarke's gone, so he's probably got a better chance of getting called up. But talking about Steve Clarke, we're going to the ex-Kilmarnock manager, and that's also going to be heading to Ross. Kilmarnock, they did bring in Neil McCann, after they did sack Stuart Kettlewell, which in my honest opinion was a abysmal, piece of appointment to begin with. How do you feel about Neil McCann coming to Kilmarnock and which he's bringing to Kilmarnock?
Well, when I first realised that he was coming after Kettlewell, I was a little bit anxious, because it was like, right, we don't really have much of a bat. He's not really done much except little bit parts at other teams. But what he did and what he brought in January to pull us out of literally probably going down. I mean, Livingston kind of was the cushion, but every time we were losing, they were getting closer, winning a game, nicking 1-0 wins here and there, and we were losing, which was scary. But then he changed the team around. I mean, I know we got Curtis in on loan from Rangers, but he did change the attack, having Hugo up front and Jones, but then losing him to an injury just after he starts scoring 8 goals in the 13 games. You're kind of going, oh great, we've got a striker again, and then he gets injured, and you're like, oh come on, this is getting beyond the joke of how our season was going. But hopefully this season we can do better. And
do you think Finlay Carter's is going to be a massive loss to Kilmarnock?
Oh, I think he's a huge loss. I mean, not to get him back on loan this season and is quite devastating, because Rangers say they're going to play him, but we're kind of like, it looks like they're going for more wingers with a European grade, and you're kind of going, well, he's just been to the World Cup with Scotland, played in it. Why aren't you going to play him in the first team?
Talking about Rangers, you also brought Bailey Rice from them. That's probably a replacement for David Watson. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's a wee bit of a disappointment that, in my opinion anyway, that David Watson never really kicked on that we all thought he would have?
Oh, I think he just had. I think he knew he knew he wasn't signing a new contract. He knew he was leaving at the end of the season, so he just decided, I can play. I'm playing in the squad. I'm going to get picked, but I don't really need to produce, which is devastating for us, because the season before and the season before that, he was turning into one of these Scottish wonder kids, getting on the top, the top 50 kind of bit. and we were kind of going, right, we've got somebody here, but now, just as I'm guessing Kirkwall didn't use him right, and it just made them decide, oh, well, I don't really need to play good football to get picked up. But to be fair, I'm kind of glad he didn't get picked up by either Rangers or Celtic and he went out the league, because 9 times out of 10, somebody who gets picked from us comes back and hurts us.
Well, he did mention the word Celtic there, Jamie, so we will go over to you. There has been massive news today that Maeda is going to Ipswich Town for 10 million. Do you think that's a good bit of business for Celtic, or do you think, I know theoretically he kind of did win Celtic the league in that split, but do you think he should have sold him last season for more amount of money?
No, I'm quite happy that he stayed on to last season. As you say, mate, he did contribute when it really mattered at the end of last season and stuff, just after the split, and you know, basically won as the league, his goals and stuff, you know, none bigger than the last one against Hearts on the last day of the season and that. So, no, to be honest with you, I mean, I've seen the figures that are being touted for Maeda's move to Ipswich here, 8 million plus £2 million add-ons. He's 28 years old, you know, he's just back for a World Cup and that. He wants to leave, which is the biggest thing for me, you know, he's trying to push through the deal and stuff. So, no, I mean, I'm quite happy the fact that we'll get 10 million from him, to be honest with you, and wish him all the best and stuff. It's clearly a dream. He's said that several times. It's a dream to play in the English Premier League for him and stuff. So, good luck to him, and hopefully it does happen. And, you know, the big question is, when he does go, are we going to reinvest it? Are we going to try and get, you know, a similar type of player, or, you know, somebody of, you know, that quality again? It's going to be difficult to get somebody who's you know, enthusiastic as him, hunting down the ball, and, you know, he's up and down that pitch like I've never seen before. I've never seen a player like Dyson Maeda, to be honest. He's not the most technically gifted player in the world. Do you know what I mean? When the ball gets to his feet, there is quite a lot of times where he'll kind of do something silly or whatever. And, you know, one-on-ones, we've all seen the clips of him one-on-ones with goalkeeper on that. He's not the best in the world, but what he gives you in that energy and the pace and the dynamism on that side of the park, and that is really why he's got his move to the English Premier League. Do you know what I mean? So, but like I say, mate, £10 million, I'll take that.
Obviously, it is a good amount of money, but we all know the Celtic board doesn't reinvest until at least they know they've got Champions League football or whatever. What is it with the Celtic board? Like, you know, last season it was all up in arms. You're thinking, okay, they kind of got a kick up the arse. You know, they did win the league in the last game of the season. They might awaken, but it feels like things have got bad to worse. Do you feel they're doing it out of spite, or is it they're just not actually good at their job?
Both, to be honest with you. I think that it definitely is. You know, I've said this before. You know, like the AGM really kind of changed my mind last season, because I always thought to myself, you know, surely the board wouldn't be so, you know, silly, let's be honest, to try and make a divide between them and the supporters. But that AGM last season just screamed out arrogance and, you know, we will not be told what to do. You will not dictate to us what to do and stuff. Like, you know, the Peter Lawwell situation, he says, I take it you don't want us to end this web meeting then, you know, and then, you know, we'll be quiet, you know. And I just thought, you know, what kind of chairman, you know, chief executive speaks to the fan base like that? You know, the Celtic fans were quite within their right to voice their concerns at that point. You know, this has been happening for years. Where they're just not doing their job properly, reinvesting in players, you know, at the correct times and stuff. And you know, that really did change my mind on it. I think there is a real spite between the club and the supporters at the moment. I think that they're trying to antagonise us, and I think it's just a case of, you know, you will not tell us what to do. You know, we are the superior here. We're in charge of the club. You can moan all you want, you can do whatever you want, but we'll decide. And I think that's just a very, very poor road to go down, to be honest with you. I mean, now we're in the 21st of July, we'll sign one player. I know that just before I came on here, I was saying to you, you know, it looks like we may be getting another one across the line. Fabrizio Romano says that Mika Bauer, a German midfielder, has agreed personal terms. So, you know, you'd like to think if that's the case, then the clubs will sort out some sort of deal. But, you know, it's even at this, I've said it for weeks and weeks, it's taking too long. Even at this point right now, if we go out and sign, you know, a dream for me would be 5 players coming in over the next week. That is just a total pipe dream. But even if it was to happen, if we get, you know, 5 players over the line, it's too late. You know, they should have been in weeks ago training Mark Laniel's philosophy. You know, I mean, I know that he's been the manager last season, but he did say a couple of weeks ago he wants to implement a new style into Celtic and try and implement his old style. You know, the physical type back when he was the manager in the early 2000s, and with the modern game. You know, the passing from the back and the that type of play and stuff. So I mean, you want the players in early. You look at what the Rangers have done. It. You know, Rangers are going to be the biggest threat to Celtic this season, I would imagine. You know, and they've got the players in early. They've took Shankland, they've took Devlin, they've got the boy Neil from down south and that. So they've got players in. They've got a new goalkeeper. You know, for us, we need these guys in. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think there's a real fear within the Celtic fan base just now because, you know, as you mentioned, Maida's away. You know, before anybody left, we still needed players. You know, even if everybody was to still be there for last season, we still need players to improve the squad because we were really, really poor last season. And at this point right now, we've lost Iheanacho, we've lost Sirachi, you know, and the fear now is we're going to lose Maida, Engels, Nygren, Arthur Johnson, and then you're totally having a new team. You know what I mean? So, aye, it's I believe it is a case of spite, and you know, there's too many people at the top not doing their job properly, i.e. Michael Nicholson, because you know the Green Brigade came out with a statement yesterday asking for the removal of him. And you know, I wouldn't be against that. I think it's about time that these guys did move on, and there was a new kind of somebody at the helm at Celtic. To be honest with you, because it's not looking good at the moment, and I don't know how this gets repaired. Even if, like I say, Celtic go out and sign 5 players, I still think there's going to be a big divide between the club and the supporters, which is never a good thing. You need unity to be successful in football and stuff. So I just hope it does get resolved in some way. And the only way I can see that happening is if Nicholson and, you know, all these other guys move on.
Dale, we'll go back to you in the Falkirk side of things because you obviously said Falkirk is, you know, bringing 5 players in, they're imminent. You know, there's been a theme with the promoted teams, you know, they do well in the first season, get top 6 like Dundee United, etc. And then they kind of like fall off. I'm not saying instantly relegated, but is there a case of you that's a wee bit worried? Because I seen your tweet against Ayr United, but its first half it was slow, then second half it was a wee bit long ball over the top, etc. Are you scared of a wee bit of a second season syndrome?
I wouldn't say I'm scared as such, but I think this might be a season where we've got to kind of nurse our way through it. And I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, you know, last year we were expecting, or we were hoping we were going to be at least 10th. We were budgeting for that at the outset, so I wasn't really that worried about us going down. I knew Livingston, you know, were throwing money at it and weren't really getting very good players. I kind of thought they would be down the bottom there, but this year there is that just nursing ourselves through. But you know, I didn't do predictions for the league until at least the end of August, because obviously players come in, especially to the teams outside. Well, I was going to say Rangers and Celtic, but Celtic might still be doing their business then. But teams outside Rangers and Celtic tend to do their business near the end because the English loan market opens up at that sort of time. So for us, once I see who we've got in through that English loan market, then I'll be able to say I think we might do well this year. But again, I would take 10th if you were to offer me it now. I'd take 10th right now just to get us through, because we've got the new guys that we've brought in, the new permanent deals we've brought in are all in like 2+1s or 3-year deals, and they're young guys, they're exciting guys that have came from Northern Ireland. We've got a guy that we've brought in who's come from Latvia. We're all excited about him because, well, he's, you know, this kind of Latvian. He's about 6'2". He's got a long throw on him. You know, we've not had that for a while. It's just typical Falkirk, though, that we have a long throw expert who is 6'2". So I don't know if he can throw it and get into the box to get it. I don't know. But so we've got we've got a different sort of shape to our team. We're maybe not as balanced at this point as we should be. You know, Sybil gives that wee bit extra balance that Tate didn't give us last season. So I'm happy with that. But up front, we've kind of, at the moment, we've went from pace and trickery to Ethan Laidlaw, who's a big lumpy laddie who I think will do well for us, but he's playing, Bigland's playing him on the left-hand side, and we're playing our, who was going to be our main striker, Ben Parkinson. We've been playing him on the wing as well. So in effect, we've probably got 3 main strikers playing in the 3 top positions, which is really unusual. That's no McGlynn's style at all. But it just says it all for me that, you know, we're desperate to get these wingers in through the loan market. So,
talk about John McGlynn. You know, there is a vacant job available, and it is obviously Scotland.
nope.
I really like John McGlynn. You know, I feel like he's different because, you know, usually clubs nowadays, they have like a technical director, a director of football that does really the work for the manager. But John McGlynn was also a scout beforehand with like Celtic, etc., with Brendan Rodgers' first tenure. And the players that can eye up is unbelievable. So you obviously have that safety in him to think he's going to bring a player in. But if Scotland does come knocking, I think it is a good possibility because the likes of Derek McInnes has left at Hearts, David Moyes has signed a new contract with Everton. Do you think he walks to take that Scotland job?
As a supporter, I would not begrudge him that. What he's done for my team. We were at the pits. We were the absolute pits. You know, Jamie was talking about the AGM with Michael Nicholson. I mean, we had a famous AGM that was on the Terrace podcast because of how mad it was about 5 years ago. That was your turning point to kind of get us to where we are now, the fan-owned club and all that. So McGlynn, he came in 4 years ago, he's turned the club around, and that's just through his hard work, through him being a great man manager, having an eye for a player, and having trusted people out there to get players for him. I've got a really good scout called Alan Fraser. He's been down south with Nottingham Forest and teams like that, and he's been eyeing some players up for us, and that's where we've been getting the kind of English loan people are coming in. So, but for me, to go back to your question, I wouldn't begrudge him going to Scotland. It's whether or not they would want him as a manager, and it's whether or not the likes of Scott McTominay and all that would want to be taking instruction off of him. It depends what the players, the Scotland players, what they are, how they feel about sort of somebody like John McGlynn coming in. But if he was to get it, I wouldn't hold a grudge against him at all. Definitely not.
In your opinion, do you think they come knocking Scotland?
I'll say aye, but I hope no.
Well, we will go on to Kelly again. They've obviously brought the likes of Mark O'Hara in, was been a phenomenal player for St Mirren, albeit did have some hamstring issues. They're building a good squad. They brought in that Welsh lad. I'm just going to say second named Owen because I'm not pronouncing his first name at all.
I couldn't even try and pronounce that first name either.
He's had a lot of praise done in Wales, albeit the Welsh quality might be substandard to some people up here, but it feels like Neil McCann is building something special, and that's before I make my prediction, spoiler alert, I think Kilmarnock can actually go for a top 6 finish. How do you feel going into this season?
I hope we could do a top 6 finish. I mean, even being like the top of the bottom 6 would be good, just so we're away from the relegation. We've shown that the players that he's brought in have turned up. I mean, to lose 2 players to Aberdeen just before at the end of the season, and then we've not really replaced the defence. We've got Dominic Thompson probably going away.
Is that a loss?
Not really, but it's one more player. It's like you can now find another left back. I mean, Larson's doing okay at left back, but we do need a backup. But to see young players, and I mean, bringing in O'Hara is bringing in it's like a Premiership player that can play in it, knows the game. It's coming back home to where he started, so it's kind of nice to be able to go right. We've got a midfield that can probably midfielders that can probably hold their own and do well. We just need to make sure that our strikers don't get injured and try these new the wingers. I mean, we've got that Ring that just came in. Ring, hopefully he can produce something. I don't know if he's going to be like Curtis and do that, or we've got that Mathurin.
I know you're talking about.
Rashun Mathurin that they brought in from Scandinavia or something, I think it was. But it's interesting to see that he's picking some Premiership players and then trying to mix them in with a few others that hopefully could do the job for us.
You did mention the two players who went to Aberdeen. I do think Neil McCann actually took them out of his squad.
Yeah.
I know for squad depth it's a wee bit of a bad thing, but do you think they're going to be big misses to Kilmarnock anyway, Lyons and Mayo?
I mean, Lyons was a good midfielder. Mayo is defending with the partnership he had with Diaz for the first couple of seasons was good, but then it just started to dwindle. So when they brought in the Canadian lad and what's his name, and then the New Zealand lad Stranger, it kind of made it harder for him to get back in the squad. So it might not be a miss, but it was a backup.
Obviously, there's a big positive news, and that is obviously Striex came back from his heart problem. Do you think that's a big, massive boost for Kilmarnock? Because we've seen last season as well that goalkeeper position was up for grabs for anyone.
When he went down for the injury, I was like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to replace him? Because he was basically saving games. You know, what was going to be a win turned into a draw, what was going to be a loss turned into a draw, or kept, people out, keep teams out, and made the back four kind of confident that they could do their job. But then when we went to Roos and then we had the lone guy from Celtic and everything, it just kind of seemed like we were falling apart in defence and we didn't have anyone. So for him to come back just before the end of the season and start playing again like he did, I think that's going to be our strongest position.
Jamie, I want to talk about something, and it's a touchy subject. It's about Martin O'Neill. He came back and obviously won the double. In my opinion, I feel he should have walked in the limelight there. He has came back again, and he's came under some criticism from the Celtic fans that I've seen, especially with his comments after the Middlesbrough game. What's your thoughts about it? Obviously, he's a legend for Celtic, but if you walk back in that position, you have a right to criticise the guy, albeit no matter how good he is. What's your thoughts on Martin O'Neill? I don't want to say he's lying to the Celtic fans, but he's trying to keep two sets of people happy, the board and the fans, and obviously you can never do that. What's your thoughts on Martin O'Neill's situation so far?
I think you're right, mate. I think it's a difficult one for him. He's a very, very difficult position because he's employed by the club. Dermot Desmond's his friend. You know what I mean? He's been there before. They've known each other a long time. And Dermot Desmond and the Celtic board have gave Martin O'Neill an opportunity here. In the twilight years, and clearly he had a successful period last season. Albeit, we didn't play well, but we ended up going and winning the double. So, in the end, it was success. So I think I do get the frustration with Celtic fans when we see comments like, after the Middlesbrough game, you don't get full houses for pre-season friendlies anymore. Everybody knows why, the majority of that stadium was empty on Saturday, and that's because the Celtic fans were making a protest about how they're not happy with how things are happening, with how things are running, what's happening and stuff. So, there's no point. Don't try and gaslight us by, trying to get away from the real reason why things like that are happening. So it's I will never, no matter what happens next season and stuff like that, Martin O'Neill will always be a legend in my eyes. Even just he already was, and then obviously what happened last season coming in, and the circumstances, everything. You had the whole Wilfred Nancy period where we were just awful, and then Brendan Rodgers walked away before it. And then you had players weren't playing to the standard that we know they can. Then all the off-field stuff, as we all know about. And yet somehow Martin O'Neill managed to get it over the line, and he'll never ever tarnish his reputation to me or anything like that. It's just a very similar situation to like when Neil Lennon was in charge, during the COVID season and stuff, and a lot of Celtic fans were turning on him because of how that turned out, and Rangers ended up winning the title that season and stuff. But to me, guys like Neil Lennon, Martin O'Neill, they've already cemented themselves into Celtic, folklore. They're absolute legends, and they always will be in my eyes. But Martin O'Neill, like I say, it's really difficult. He's not going to come out and start slating the board and slagging the board off and start, pointing out individuals and, well, I was promised this or I was promised that. All that stuff is best kept behind closed doors, in my opinion. You go back to, like, I was very, very critical at Russell Martin last season when Russell Martin came out after one game, the first game against Motherwell, and criticised all his players. It's just a stupid, daft thing to do, especially that early on, and it's like, that was a new manager for them, new players in. That was meant to be a whole new start, a fresh start. And after one game, because they get a draw and don't play particularly well, he comes out and slags them off. So, I don't believe in putting things out there all the time. But like I say, I do understand the Celtic fans' frustration and stuff. But, Martin O'Neill was just trying to do the best he can to kind of keep everybody happy, as you say.
Realistically, it's only a question that Martin will know, but why walk into the job again? Because, like, when obviously candidates you're looking at, if Celtic fans would prefer Martin over the likes of Robbie Keane or Craig Bellamy, but it's like you're winning nothing. This was probably going to happen. He said obviously last against the Sporting Lisbon defeat that he never promised anything. Again, he might have actually promised stuff behind closed doors we don't actually know. But it just feels like you're walking into a losing battle, and if you actually guessed leading before like the past 20 odd years that Celtic's been run, they were never going to have their shit together. And the problem is they're going to be losing a lot more players like Engels, Nygren, Alistair Johnstone apparently is linked to Everton. Carter Vickers, is he going to be the same after that injury? The left back situation, Kieran Tierney sometimes going in the last 70 minutes. Sriracha, Iheanacho never got re-signed. And then he said as well that there's two stories to everything. And apparently those agents have, came out and said, these were like the wage demands. Apparently Iheanacho's actually only on 21 grand a week rather than 47 grand a week. It's, like I said, it's only a question that Martin O'Neill can answer, but would you want him to take, would you want him to go back to Celtic if this was the most likely outcome was going to happen, which obviously has?
I think he just got the bug for it last season. I think that he enjoyed his time back. He was at the game for a long time. He was on TalkSport and stuff like that. I'm, an avid listener to TalkSport. So, I was listening to him all the time when he was on there with Jim White and Simon Jordan before he took the Celtic job. And then afterwards, the first spell, he was back on there and he was saying, I loved it, absolutely loved it up there again. And, Simon Jordan was kind of trying to push him. Do you think he'll be back in there? As it gave you the appetite to be back in? And he's basically said yes. So, like I say, he's an elderly gentleman now, isn't he, and stuff, 75 years old. But I just think that he kind of got the bug for it and wanted to come back. As for the kind of, and I mean no disrespect when I say this to Scotland, to Scottish football, right? But when it comes to Celtic and Rangers, you don't need to break the bank to win that league. You know what I mean? It's just you need to just spend more than everybody else. You know what I mean? And
do you think this year you need to do it, but with Hearts?
No, I really don't. I don't think we need to break the bank. No, I don't. I think that we've still got some fantastic players at the club. We've got McGregor, Tierney, Alistair Johnstone, Carter Vickers, Jota's to come back. There is some real good players there to connect to if he comes onto a game this season and stuff. We probably still have got the core of a right good team there. We weren't performing last season. Like I say, I think a lot of that was to do with off the field antics. I still believe there is a nucleus of a right good team there. I don't believe we need to go out and spend £40 million to go and win the Scottish Premier League. I think that, if we reinvest wisely, I think if we spend somewhere between 20 and 30 million, I think we'll win the league. So, my main frustration is trying to progress in Europe. I want to do better in Europe. You know what I mean? There's too many years passing now where you're going in there and getting embarrassed. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you're getting into these games and you're just hoping it's no a humiliation. You know what I mean? And last season, for instance, we were absolutely terrible in the Europa League, especially at home. That game against Roma was just unbelievably bad, man. I was screaming and shouting at the TV that night. Don't get me wrong, it didn't help that Wilfred Nonsi was in charge and he didn't have a clue what he was doing, to be honest. But I mean, I don't think we need to break the bank, mate. I think that the thing is, I think even though we were so bad last season, we still won the league. So it just shows you that we can still do it. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, I think Martin O'Neill will realise that. He'll realise that it won't take mega bucks to go and win the league. And I think that Celtic could easily go and win the treble next year. I really do believe that, even at this point as we stand. I do believe that we can win the treble. So I think Martin O'Neill's just hungry for more trophies and more success. So I think that's what it is.
Like, obviously, you say Celtic don't really need to break the bank, and looking over the 40 decade, well, since the 90s, you could probably say that. But I don't know, it feels really different. Obviously, if you're a new viewer, I am a Celtic fan this year, and to question on your European progress, I've actually never seen Celtic win a knockout tie. It's depressing. I don't know why we show up these days, but it feels like mentality got Celtic over the line last season. If you say those types of players like Vickers, Johnstone, McGregor, there obviously has been links with McGregor going to Celtic, but apparently that was with Rodgers, but they have a European quota which they've already fulfilled. If McGregor does go, which some people are saying ain't that big a loss, I think it's going to be a finding out of you don't know what you've got until you lose it. Do you I know you said you don't really about the bank, but there's an argument that it was just mentality got Celtic over the line. And with Hearts, I still think Hearts is going to play along here. If Hearts do get that taste again, I feel like they could be still dangerous opponents to Celtic, and who knows, maybe an even worse season happens and Celtic finishes third.
I personally think it's going to be really, really difficult for Hearts to maintain what they've done last season. They've lost their captain, they've lost Cammy Devlin. I know he was out for a large part last season, but he did play his part up until he got injured. They've lost their manager, obviously. I think that Braga will move on. I think there's a possibility Kariadis moves on. Halkett's out for a long time. I know that the new manager has made him the club captain and stuff, but he's going to be out for a good while. I don't think he's going to be starting the season for a while. I just think it's hard for a team like Hearts to maintain that. Maybe I'll be totally wrong and they will kind of surprise me and they'll be pushing again next season, but I don't know. I don't know if they'll be able to maintain that. But we'll see. Time will tell on that one. But when it comes to Celtic, I still think we have got the best squad in the country. And when I say that, people laugh at me, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" It was only like month and a half ago we won the league. And as you say, it was, a lot of that was mentality and stuff. But I mean, I'm not sure I would take many players outside of Celtic into the Celtic team. And I'm like I said, no disrespect to that whatsoever, because I would take Braga, you know what I mean? Elliot, I'd have taken Elijah Just, but he's moved on now and stuff. But the majority of the Celtic team I still believe is the best in the country. They've proved it. We've got multiple winners. People slag guys like Anthony Ralston and stuff. Anthony Ralston's won mega amount of trophies at Celtic. So, I'm not one of these people that thinks Anthony Ralston is the worst player that's ever lived. You know what I mean? But I don't think he's up to it either, to be honest with you. But I just don't think with the quality in Scotland that we need to break the bank. Do you know what I mean? It's like, Rangers will be stronger this season. They definitely will. But I reckon it will only take 4 or 5 players of quality to actually go and win the league by a wee bit of distance again, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm just being I've seen so much success over the years and I'm being a wee bit kind of pig-headed about this. I don't really know. But like I say, it wasn't that long ago we just won the league. And it's going to be a blow losing Iheanacho, because when he came on, he scored goals, and Sriracha was a backup and stuff. But the nucleus of the Celtic team that won the double last year is still there. So I don't think it will take much to go and maintain the league again, and actually by quite a distance, to be honest with you. But my like I said to you earlier, my main frustration is trying to progress in Europe and trying to do something in that kind of field.
I want to ask the same question to you two, Del and Ross. We'll start with you first of all, Del.
Mm-hmm.
As a Falkirk fan, winning the league is out of sight unless a Leicester scenario does happen. Like, what's your aspirations going into the season? Obviously, last season was incredible. Maybe when the split happened, it kind of went a wee bit downward. You obviously lost that semi-final to your arch rivals, Dunfermline, which I was at, by the way. What's your aspiration for the season? Is it to survive in the league or just have a good campaign, or is it to, you know what? Is a successful season to you finishing 11th or maybe even getting relegated but winning the Scottish Cup?
No, I don't think we'll go down, and I'll probably get clipped for that, but I don't think we'll go down. But I think it is, like I said before, it's going to be a season in kind of nurse the losses that we've had, because the guys for the League One season and the Championship season, they're starting to go away now. They're starting to leave. So as I said, I was going to interject a couple of times with Jamie, but I kept my mouth shut with regards to having a good dressing room. It's like having a good dressing room with a smart army, a couple of really good players, and a really good and a good manager, good man manager. You know that, but that can bring success more than having a team full of superstars. You look at Real Madrid and all that. I digress for obviously Falkirk, but with us, we've had that manager in place. We've had a fantastic dressing room. The lads that would die in the hill for each other. And this season, there's a lot of new guys coming in. I know that John McGlynn kind of does the interview process with them, to see are you going to fit in with the rest of the guys in our squad and the type of characters that they've got. So I'm not worried in that respect. It's just I'm not sure of the kind of quality coming in. I do hope that in the 5 signings that we're going to be making, that 1 or 2 will be for last season. We've got Toki Kyrell Wilson coming back, which would be absolutely amazing. He was just an absolute speed merchant, and that's something that we've not had for a good few years. We're probably needing to improve at the number 10 area, because Craig Sibbald doesn't play that position anymore. He plays centre. He's going to be playing central midfield for us. We've not got the number 10 area sorted out properly, so we're needing that. And we need 2 wingers and potentially another striker. So at this precise moment, the 21st of July, for me, it's finishing 10th. I would be happy with that. Are we running the Scottish Cup again? That'd be cool. But, by the end of September or end of August, start of September, my sort of decision might be, no, I want us to be finishing top 6 again. But I think St Johnstone, the way they've been sort of bringing players in, I think St Johnstone could be the dark horses for that top 6 berth this year.
Ross, and then we're all going to you with the same question. Like, what is your aspirations for Kilmarnock season, especially after having that turmoil with Stuart Kettlewell?
After last season's turmoil, I'd really like, as I said before, finish at the top of the top, even finishing top of the bottom 6, or maybe just getting into the top 6 would be brilliant. But we've got to get the team to gel quicker and play better. I mean, going down to 10 men against Elgin and winning 1-0, which was quite it's good to win, but watching your only right back get sent off in that game, you're kind of going, well, we've just sent out Ben Brannan to Inverness on loan, or is it Queen of the South or something? But we've just lost our backup. So to watch to see these players like just kind of going, oh, we'll just take a red card here, red card there. You're going, no, we need to keep players on the field. Hopefully with this influx of like O'Hara and Rice and Keelty getting the captaincy, we could probably gel a good midfield that could push us. I think getting another striker, backup striker, and a couple of wingers would help us get across that line to finishing in the top 6. But anything above 11th would be brilliant.
Well, I think you've got high hopes for Neil McCarran, my honest opinion. But to recap this off, we will go to you, Jamie, and we'll do the first 5, fixtures for the teams. We'll name the teams, and obviously we'll name the venue. You've got Dundee at home, Kilmarnock away, St Johnstone away. I think that could be a potential tricky one. Falkirk at home and Aberdeen at home. Out of 15 points, how many points do you think Celtic will be picking up?
15. Honestly,
really?
It'll be 15. When I seen the fixtures announced, I was like, I don't think I would have picked I don't think if I was to have picked, I would have changed much about that, to be honest. Like, to have a really successful start. Maybe Aberdeen, the last one that you mentioned, but I mean, if I'm looking at that, and if you're going to be champions again and win trophies, and go back to the Celtic that I want us to go back to, then 15 points, mate. You know what I mean? Then I think that will happen. To be honest, I think we will pick up maximum points at the first time.
To be fair, on paper, Celtic should be picking up 15 points. I think the Kilmarnock fixture would have been a wee bit more difficult if they kept, the 3D or 3G pitch, whatever it's called. But yeah, 15 points, you can agree with. I think Celtic will probably drop points at least at one of their away grounds, but that's just me being less optimistic. We'll go to you, Dale, for the Falkirk's first five, and it's a tricky first five in my opinion. Mirren at home, Motherwell away, which he did have a good record at last season, Hearts at home, Celtic away, then Rangers at home. 15 points. How many points do you think you're picking up?
-2. No, I think I would hope. I saw the St Mirren fan thinking he was going to beat us easily on the first game of the season, which fair play to him. But I would say between sort of maybe 4 or 5 points. I don't think we'll kind of get above that. But it's start of the season. I would much rather get Rangers, Hearts, and Celtic out of the way early doors, and that there's obviously that sort of 12 to 15 point after the 9 games that John McGlynn wants for the first quarter. So I'm kind of, if I can get 5 points out the first 5 games, then I think that's not too bad.
To be fair, I actually think this season is a longer international break, so maybe if you do pick up those less points, then it could be a good bit to rebuild the squad.
Yep.
But then we'll go into you, Ross, with Kilmarnock's fixtures. It is St Johnstone away, Celtic at home, Hibs away, Dundee United at home, and St Mirren at home. 15 points. How many do you think Kelly's picking up?
Hopefully 6. I mean, we looking at Celtic at home, St Johnstone, and that we're kind of I don't see us doing well against them. I mean, I hope we show a bit more backbone against Celtic and Rangers and that this season. But I think maybe Dundee United, we might get something. We might get a win out of there, and then I'm hoping against St Mirren.
I actually want to ask you a question before we recap this. Sorry, do you think the new pitch could cause Kilmarnock problems?
I think that might be something because the players have only played on the G Astro thing, but getting a new grass pitch, that'll be an interesting one to see how that actually takes for the team. But then again, everyone else has been the people that came in have probably been playing on grass pitches also for the last few seasons. So
yeah, that is fair. Well, cheers for Dale, Jamie and Ross for coming on. Everyone listening at home, please hit that like button, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.